This class, Capturing the Heart of a Child, is basically about building relationships not only with the children but with their parents. And my pastor is here. He has a session this hour and next hour. I'm from First Baptist Church in Milford, Ohio. And he and I went there about the same time. Our former pastor, Dr. Charles Keene, maybe some of you have had him as a teacher here. And so he and I went there at about the same time, about 14 years ago. And pastor, the best advice he ever gave me, I went there to be the children's pastor. I now direct a ministry based out of there called Master Clubs. But whenever I went there, I asked him, I said, okay, at that time we were averaging somewhere between 200, 250 kids every week coming in. And I asked him, I said, Pastor, how do you recommend I ever get to know these kids? And the best advice probably he gave me there in my early days there is he told me, he said, Kirby, your priority is not to build a relationship with the students. He said, you're here as a children's pastor, and Pastor Dutcher often looks at the Exodus 18 principle, looking at Jethro and Moses, and he said, Kirby, you need to understand your responsibility, first of all, is to build a relationship with your leaders, with your other leaders, referring to the Sunday school teachers, bus workers, junior church workers, things like that. And he said, then, after you've built those relationships, then you need to build relationships with the parents. Because if you build a relationship with the parents, he said, we're here as a church to help the parents raise their children. Now, I understand if you work in a bus ministry, the parents aren't there. But I still believe on a bus route, you should have a great relationship with those parents. When you get to those homes, you shouldn't just look for the children, but you should look for those parents and try to have a relationship with them so they can begin to trust you. And there's a lot of things that are said about church workers, specifically children's workers. Make sure that they know they trust you. If they will learn to trust you and understand your desire for what their children could learn, if they will ride your bus or if they come to your Sunday school class, they'll make sure they're there because it's ultimately their choice. Most of those children are not going to make the choice to get up on Sunday morning. Mom or dad are going to help them. And certainly for those of you that work with drive-in kids, those kids don't drive in themselves, do they? Somebody has to bring them in. And so if those parents will understand what you're trying to do, that will help with this. So this class is going along with that, capturing the heart of a child, building a relationship with them. And I want to make sure that you understand the importance of that and why you need to make that a priority. How many of you were saved after the age of 18? Raise your hand. Okay, some of you aren't very far past that anyway, okay? But as far as I know, I had never heard the gospel until I got out of high school. I grew up in a small town in Texas, went to a public school of about 100 kids, kindergarten through 12th grade. And as far as I know, I never heard the gospel until I graduated from high school and was already in college. Someone began to witness to me. I got saved. I wish I could tell you that right away I got started in the church, but I did not. And one of the reasons goes back to the purpose of this class is because I would go to a church, I'd fill out one of those visitor cards, and nothing ever happened with it. Nobody called me. I didn't get anything in the mail. And I began to wonder, why am I filling these things out? And I'd done that at several churches, and I didn't understand what was going on. Nobody was coming to follow up with me. I was in a singles class, which maybe some of you are in an age group like that. And sitting in a class like that, I would ask a couple of questions, and they would look at me like, what an idiot. Why are you asking a question like that? And because they'd been in church a long time, and they knew those answers. So what do you do if you ask questions and somebody treats you like an idiot? What do you stop doing? You stop asking questions, don't you? And so not only was I not asking questions in class because nobody was following up with me, it became pretty frustrating. I didn't understand what was going on. We'll talk more about this in the next hour if you want to stay around for the children's ministry class. And I didn't understand what was going on. And they were using words and terms that I did not understand. And, they'd say, turn to such and such book in the Bible. I'd get there about halfway through the lesson. By then, they'd moved on somewhere else. And so how frustrating can that be for a new Christian? And so because nothing was ever happening with that, I quit going. In the meantime, I joined the Air Force. I went through basic training, went through some other training in Colorado. Of all places, my first permanent duty station was in Las Vegas, Nevada. First Sunday there, I went to a church. Guess what happened? The second week there, somebody came up and introduced himself and began to build a relationship with me. You might refer to it as discipleship. And many times we think of discipleship as, okay, this is this A to Z course, or this is this workbook that we work in. But really, discipleship obviously is training them about their Bible and establishing a relationship with them. Somebody began to do that with me. That was in 1986. That couple, he is in heaven now, but she is still like a mother to me. I just talked to her this week on the phone. She lives in Texas now. But I believe with all my heart that I would not be in church today if it were not for that couple establishing a relationship like that. And because I wouldn't have been in church, I would never have met my wife, so I would not have the kids that I have. I probably wouldn't be in the ministry today if it were not for that, because somebody made that investment in my life. You need to understand, whenever you are investing in your kids and you're doing things with them, I'm not just talking about up in the front of the classroom, but I'm talking about spending time with them. We're talking about their background. So we're talking about this idea of having heart. So C, have spirit. Be prepared for class. Be prepared. Don't just walk in. Don't, whenever you're, if Sunday school is supposed to start at 10 o'clock, then if you walk in at 10 o'clock, our pastor says this: if you're on time, you're late. So if your class is supposed to start at 10 o'clock, we'd suggest you be there at least 9:45. If you're later than that, you are late. Because we want you to be able to get there, make sure your things are together. See, as you were coming in here, I wasn't scurrying around up here trying to lay all my stuff out. I came in yesterday and got things set up so I'd be ready for you when you came in today, because I wanted to be able to at least greet some of you who got here on time. Okay? So make sure that you do that, because if you're not doing that and you're scurrying around, at your church, this will probably never take place at your church, that you expect there to be a table and 8 chairs in your little classroom. And you get there on Sunday morning, they're not there. That doesn't ever happen where you go to church, probably does it. But the day that does happen, if you someday wind up not in the perfect church and that happens, and your kids are getting in there, and you walk in at 10 o'clock, they know, okay, I'll be ready to teach, and you walk in, and there's no table, and there are no chairs, and the kids are having a nice little wrestling match right in the middle of the floor, and what happens to you? Hey, kids, get out of here. Come on, guys, let's sit up. What happened to the table? What happened to the chairs? You're supposed to be starting something, and you start off being what? Very negative. You're starting off fussing at them. But if you had simply got there a little bit early and recognized the fact that, hey, my table's not here, my chairs are not here, I better get those rounded up. Boom, boom, boom. You get them all in place. Now as the kids start coming in, you're welcoming them at the door. When their kids are welcoming you, you're in trouble, all right? That is bad news from the very start, okay? So you need to be there to welcome them and be ready to greet them. And just think about it the way that your pastor plans things out at church. What your pastor probably has somebody at place at church that are greeters. They're out there to welcome folks as they're coming in. You don't want people just walking around and wondering, where am I supposed to go? Kids need somebody to help them with that. So that's part of being prepared. Having your notes ready, having your visuals ready to go, some different things like that. Well, we need to move on. Number 2, show excitement. That kind of goes back to the idea of having a passion for your class. Whenever you are prepared and you have studied and you're ready to teach from the overflow because you've been studying all week long and you're ready to go, guess what? You're going to be excited. You know the days that you're going to find you're not going to be excited, or the days that you're not prepared. You say, well, you're kind of accusing me of something. I said, no, I am confessing something, okay? I've been there. There's been days I walked in that I have not been thoroughly prepared. I have not been ready to go. You know what? I wasn't excited about it because I was kind of regretting it, because I thought, how is this going to go? Because that's when you're going to have discipline problems, because they're going to tell that you're kind of nervous. They're going to tell you're not prepared. And, you're going to go to get a visual and it's not there. Oh, boy, I forgot to get that. And you're going to be frustrated. Guess what? You're going to start to lose their attention. But when you walk in and all week long you've been waiting for it, woohoo, you're ready to go. I like to think of people kind of like cartoon characters. You ever thought about that? My daughter collects Eeyores. How many of you know people that are kind of like Eeyore? Oh, no, my tail fell off, and every day is going to be gloomy. The sun could be beautiful outside. Yesterday, we got here yesterday, I walked in the store. A guy was complaining about the heat. Now, I just drove down from Cincinnati, and we have had a very cold winter. I wanted to slap the guy. Like, dude, it's finally 80 degrees. Can we just enjoy it a little bit, But you have some teachers that literally come in, and I've seen people actually do this. I get an opportunity to travel a lot of churches. I've seen people come in to start junior church. I'm excited about things starting, and whoever it is that is there at the church, they're responsible to get things started, and they come up and, all right, guys, well, it's 11:15. I guess we better get started. Does anybody know who's supposed to lead songs today? And then just look out at the kids. How many of you are tired? Man, I'm tired. I mowed the grass yesterday. You know what drives me nuts? Is to see some people make their posts on Facebook. And it's like they post every day, oh no, it's morning again. Sir, you're 35 years old. Have you not figured out this comes around every 24 hours? Are you really surprised by that at this point in your life? It just really doesn't help me build respect for them. But when you see a teacher come in and do that, I mean, if he's not excited about it, then I just kind of click. I'm kind of done. if he's not excited about being here, I'm not going to be very excited about it. But other people are kind of like Tiggers. Woohoo! Hey, glad you're here today. You may not want to do that. You may scare some of them to death. But maybe somebody in between Eeyore and Tigger might be pretty good. A little Christopher Robin or something like that. But bring some energy into the classroom. It's not time to go to sleep. Okay. There are so many things you do. Have you ever thought about this? You ever thought about how many hours there are in a week, how many minutes there are in a day, and all those things, and how little time you have with those kids? When you really begin to think through your ministry and you begin to pray for these kids by name, and you go out and see them and you see their situations in their home, and you realize there is no hope within that home. And maybe the only hope that they have is the 1 hour you have with them on Sunday. When you truly get a hold on that, you're going to get prepared. You're going to get a burden for them. You're going to treasure them because you're going to realize, God, I may be the only instrument in their life to truly show them your love. You're that living Bible to them. Are you excited about it? If you're not excited about it, move out of the way so somebody else can come in there. That just comes from a parent. H, have humility. Have a servant's heart. Flip the page. To capture a student's heart, a teacher must have heart. And number 2, have expression. How can a teacher express love? Well, several ways. Number 1, with their eyes. Mama knows how to show her love with her eyes, doesn't she? Daddy knows how to show his frustration with his eyes, maybe. You can show your love with your eyes. Even if you're looking out at your kids, as you're meeting them at the door, as you're meeting them at their home, as they're getting on the bus, whatever it may be, look them in the eye, not just for the benefit of, that's what I was taught in speech class. I'm supposed to look them in the eyes. No, that's great. But look them at the eye because with your eye expressions, you can show a lot of love with that. Don't do what you learned in 3rd grade when your teacher is trying to keep you from crying about having to get a book report and she just told you, well, look over their heads, That was good when you were in 3rd grade, but you're an adult now. Look them in the eyeball, okay? And get their attention. And with that, you can show their love. And then also, as you're walking around in your classroom or if you're sitting at a table and you look over at them, if you're looking at them, you can see, hey, they're not taking notes. They're writing notes to one another. And then just by looking at them, just kind of, when you look down, they realize, oh, no, I'm busted, okay? And you don't have to say anything about it. They realize what's going on. But keep that eye contact going with them. Number 2, ears. Have ears to hear. Listen to both sides of the story. As kids begin to talk about maybe a situation with somebody at school or maybe a situation with, just a couple weeks ago I was out visiting and was talking to a little fella that has come on our bus for years. I could just tell a difference in him recently. And I sat down in his living room and we joked around for a little while. We played a game on a computer for a few minutes. And I asked him, I said, what's going on? Something is different about you on Sunday. I found out somebody's kind of been bullying him a little bit on the bus. This had been going on for weeks and he had never told anybody. But sitting there in his living room, after getting a little bit comfortable, playing a game with him a little bit, then he settles down, he's ready to talk a little bit, we're able to take care of the situation, okay? So listen to both sides of the story, what's going on. Listen to them. That's a great thing about having activities with kids. You hear a different side of the kids. You're driving the car down the road, and they just think they're talking to one another. They don't realize you are listening to what's going on. That's when you're really going to find out what kind of music they listen to and really what kind of shows that they watch and all that. Are you trying to be a snoop? No, I'm trying to get to know my kids because I want to know how to address some of these things. I want to help them and know exactly where they are. I heard John Wilkerson say recently, he said, the shepherd should smell like the sheep. You follow that? I don't mean get in there and get in their sin, but understand, be around them and know what's going on in their life. But to do this kind of thing, number 3, it takes effort. We need to make sure we're taking time to encourage them. As we teach, I realize with that comes correction at times and some of those things. But at the same time, if all you're doing is correcting, they're going to stop listening to you. Most kids don't just need somebody else in their life to correct them. They have a lot of people in their life to correct them. You know what they need? They need a great cheerleader. Now, sir, it's enough looking at you with a bow tie. I don't want to see you in a skirt, okay? A skirt and pom-pom. That would not be cool, would it, okay? But you understand what I'm talking about. But at the same time, we need to be their cheerleaders, and he's understanding that. Kids need to know, hey, they love me. My teacher loves me. Find something positive to say. As they're coming in, look for something positive as they're coming into the classroom. Little girls, talk to them about their dress. Talk to them about how pretty their hair is, maybe a new bow that they might have. Guys, tell them how ugly they are. But when you do things like that, they realize that you're loving on them. You're not being mean to them. Body slam a kid. If a kid doesn't live with his dad, he has no male influences in his life. I like to be rough with them. They need somebody to be rough with them. Okay, that's why many times we wind up with a bunch of pansy-looking little kids. It's because so many of them don't have a man in their life to rough them up a little bit. I like to have activities, taking kids fishing and let them get some worm dirt on them. That's pretty good for a fella, isn't it? But little things like that, those things to spend time with them. All right, we have to keep rolling. We've got 5 minutes to do 3 pages. Number 3, the right attitude. Have an attitude of concern. Now, that does sound repetitive to this idea we talked about of treasuring them, but I hope that you can read through some of those notes. Flip over to page 3 at the top. Have an attitude of prayer. Now, this may sound silly. Why would we have to put this? But you ask yourself, have I done this? Look at point number 1. Pray for each student by name. Now, that sounds like it would happen, but has it happened? Has it happened this week? If I ask you for the names of the kids in your class, how quickly would you be able to give that list to me? Can I tell you something? All these things, understand this, I think I'd probably speak for any speaker that's doing any session. None of the speakers here, I know we have a conference at our church, I'm going to tell you something about it in just a little bit, but I always tell people, the people that speak in our conferences, none of them claim to be experts. All right? Understand this. I would be a pure hypocrite if I told you I've been faithful to pray for every kid in our children's ministry every day. But I know this. I know when I've been faithful to do that, I know how much more effective my ministry has been. So I've tried to learn from some of my mistakes. I don't want you to have to wait till you're 46 years old to learn those same things. Okay? So begin to do that. You say, well, how do I do that? I'm not sure how I'm going to pray for them. If you look at the end of your notes, there's a little form there that says getting to know my class. Okay? And this is a little form I put together for our teachers several years ago where again, you can just copy this front and back, punch holes in it, keep it in a little binder, and then right up here at the top, you can put some basic information about them, but right down here is the contact sheet. And what I want to encourage teachers to do is to make some kind of contact every month. And so what they can do for the month of August, that's when we do our Sunday school promotion. And so there's places here for as many as 2, but I encourage them to make at least 1. So if let's say in August, they mark down here August 15th, and so the type of visit, hey, I send them an email, or they put a T there. I send them a text for those of you that have older kids and could do that with them. I went by, spent some personal time with them. Maybe I took them fishing, or we had one of our funnest activities that our teens did this year, or I think that the girls would say was one of their funnest, is they had a spa night. Ladies, what a great idea. They set up the fellowship hall in different sections. They had a section the girls could learn to do their hair, another one to do their makeup, and their nails, and all that kind of stuff. But instead of having the world teach them how to do it ladylike and in moderation. What a wonderful thing. And the girls had a great time with it. They ate chocolate and all that, so that was wonderful. But then there's a place on the back for you to write down some other things that you learn about them, the names of their parents and their siblings, some things about the church, where they go to school, some of their favorite things about school, some of their favorite pastimes there in that bottom section, some prayer requests and some other things like that. You can keep up with that. And then when you call them on the phone or you go by to see them and you remember the name of their dog or their dead cat or whatever it is, they like that because that shows, hey, you remembered that, and they're amazed by that. You know what that shows? It shows you're taking a little bit extra time. And then you teach 4th grade. Whenever little Susie goes into 5th grade, then you might want to make a copy of it so you can keep it. What a wonderful thing just to make a copy of that and hand it on to the teacher. Say, hey, I've had Susie this year. Here's some things I already know about her. Would you like to have this as you go to visit her? Wow. Wouldn't that be great? That takes teamwork. But again, if we're really interested in capturing the heart of a child, then let's do it. Let's make the extra investment, put the extra time into it to do that. Let's keep on our notes there. Let's go down to R. Some of these other things you can read. I hope you'll take time to read these things. That's why I gave you a handout. So I hope you'll take time to go home and do it. But we've got 2 points to do in 2 minutes. R, respect. Respect for the teacher must be earned. It's not just assumed. Some of you, maybe you've already had the experience of starting a job somewhere. And or maybe you've been on the job a while, and somebody new comes in, and they're your supervisor, yet they don't know as much about the job as you know about it. And those of you in your early 20s, you may not understand that, but maybe what you can identify with is a new teacher that would come into your school, and they're fresh out of college, and you don't know anything about it, but you've been told they're your teacher, and so because they're your teacher, you have to show them some respect. But do you show them as much respect as you do the teacher down the hall that's been teaching for 20 years and stayed faithful to doing it and loves kids and loves the Lord and all those things? No. So understand this, respect is going to be earned. It's not just assumed, okay? So keep that in mind. Some things that will help with that. Number one, share with your class how God is working in your life. So when you ask for prayer requests, wouldn't it be great if you shared some prayer requests and then maybe you shared with them how God's answered some of those prayer requests? How often do you follow up with those prayer requests? When those little kids, when they pour their heart out to you and sometimes say some embarrassing things as they're giving prayer requests, do you really keep notes of that and pray for that and then go back to them and maybe call them that week and say, hey, you asked me to pray for your grandma. How's grandma doing? Whoa, the teacher remembered. Maybe sometime before you're teaching, rather than just jump straight into the curriculum, say, hey, guys, before we get into our lesson, I want to tell you this week I was reading my Bible. I came across this verse. I wanted to share this with you before we get into our lesson. What are you doing? I don't mean to do it just to show off. But from your heart, what are your kids seeing from that? Wow, my teacher reads his Bible. Whoa, they really do that. He must be a nut, But doing some things like that to let them see the personal side of you a little bit, I think is a wonderful thing. Some of these other things you can read. Let's go into the last page. Respect for the student is essential to capturing the heart. Number two, correct their misbehavior, but do not wound them. Be very careful about that. Remember this, class. Praise publicly, rebuke privately. Always find something to praise the good kids about. You'll find this. If you have rules, we have rules. We'll go over this in the next session. But simple rules in your church. Excuse me. Hands in your lap, sit up straight, no talking. Rather than me jump on her, hey, I told you to sit up straight. But I look back here, I toss Caleb a piece of candy, say, hey, Caleb, thanks for sitting up straight. You know what happens to everybody? Whoa, I'm going to sit up straight. I might get a candy bar out of this deal, So I praise publicly. Follow me? That helps you with those relationships. Again, they don't need to come and be fussed at by somebody else, okay? Last thing, and I'll have to let you go. T, earn their trust. Trust in the classroom begins with consistency, confidentiality, and caring. And by confidentiality, I mean whenever you take time to spend time with those kids and they share their heart with you, don't go around talking about that. Just like you don't want your counseling sessions to be talked about from the pulpit, they don't want theirs to be talked about from the pulpit. And last thing, C, touch. And obviously this is a tough subject in the society we're in today. And so you have to be very careful about hugging kids. We want to be very careful about that. And obviously, number 4, never use your hands to discipline a child at church. If I can demonstrate one thing real fast. The fellow in the purple shirt, the little preacher guy going to Germany. What's your name? Noah. Come here, Noah. Hurry. We got to go around and be in trouble. Okay? Class, can I show you something real quick? Okay? One thing we have to be very careful about with these little guys is how we hug them, okay? And this may sound silly, but I want to demonstrate something with your permission. Can I just give you a hug, okay? And but I want to show you how to do this. Now, David Gibbs from Christian Law Association told me this. You will never get in trouble with a kid shaking their hand, messing around like this, body slamming them like that. Just little things like this. You can have fun with them. And caught you off guard, didn't I? Okay. But you know what? Little guys like that will jump up every time and smile just like he is. They like somebody messing with them. Okay. But you know what? I can put my arm around him like this. But if I'm going to give him a hug, this is what they told me. They said if you don't give a kid a hug, they run up to you because there's some groups say never hug a child, and I kind of hate the idea of that. Okay. But he told me, as long as you do this, if he comes up, no, I won't give you a hug. I'm not going to do anything to hurt you, okay? As long as I keep my hands, his shoulders and above, I'm going to be fine, okay? I don't want to be embarrassing, but I think that will make sense to all of you, okay? So as long as you're doing that, you'll be fine. Some of these kids come in, they don't have anybody else to love on. The only hug they may get may be at church from you. You get to their house, they're going to run up to you. They're going to want a hug. And so show them just some love. Mess around with them a little bit, pull their ear, pull their nose, whatever it might be, okay? And he said, I don't even know this guy. You get to have a piece of candy for putting up with all that, okay? But just some things like that, just to build those relationships with them so they know, hey, I really care. But notice that last blank there. Never, ever use your hands to discipline, okay? You may think you're just being silly with it, but don't do it, okay? Let's be very careful about that. I want to do this. As you're leaving today, can somebody do this? Can somebody stand at the back door with these little postcards for me? And these are little postcards, and you can get on our website. We have a conference every year in November where it's a 3-day conference about training children's workers. I'd love to see some of you at that sometime. And if we could ever help you be able to go to that, please let me know. I want to pray with you before you go. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for these leaders. Lord, I thank you for, it's obvious they love their kids. They're here to try to learn more about it. Lord, I pray you'd bless them as they go back home, and as they said in the preaching services, what you're doing in their hearts right now, I pray that would come out in their classes, and they would do a more effective job, not only in reaching their children, but establishing a relationship with their parents, and maybe have more opportunities to minister to them through that as well. And we'll thank you for that. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thank you.